There comes a moment in life when you realize you can no longer live the way you have been living, a moment when the weight of your past, the anxieties of your future, and the noise of your mind become unbearable, and in that moment something shifts. A space opens up, a pause between thoughts where truth reveals itself. You have been waiting for something, haven't you? Waiting for the right time, waiting for confidence, waiting for a sign that tells you it's safe to begin. But the waiting never ends. Days become months, months become years, and still the voice in your head whispers the same doubts, the same excuses. But look around you. Life is not waiting. The sun rises without hesitation. The rivers flow without hesitation. The child takes its first steps without overthinking. Everything in nature moves forward, yet you, only you, hesitate. A man once lived trapped in his own mind, weighed down by self-doubt and regret. He spent years believing he was unworthy, believing he had missed his chance. And one evening, in the silence of his room, something happened. He stopped fighting, stopped running, and for the first time he simply sat with himself. He felt the weight of his thoughts, just stories, not reality. That man stood up the next morning and began a new life, not by changing his past, but by no longer being imprisoned by it. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are not the voice that tells you not yet. The real you is beneath all of that. It has always been here waiting for you to notice. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the air entering your lungs. Hear the subtle sounds around you. Feel the aliveness in your hands, in your chest, in your very being. This moment is all there is. This is where life happens, not tomorrow, not when circumstances change, not when you feel ready. Now, always now, there is a door in front of you, invisible but real. It is the doorway to presence, to action, to awakening. You do not need to find the key. The door has never been locked. All that is required is a single step. One step beyond fear. One step beyond hesitation. One step into the vastness of now. What will you choose? To remain asleep in the dream of waiting, or to awaken into the fullness of this moment? The time has come. Not tomorrow, not someday. No, life is happening now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not in some distant future when everything is finally right. The mind loves to dwell in the past or project itself forward into the future, always convincing you that this moment is somehow incomplete, insufficient, unworthy of your full presence. But this moment, this breath, this sensation, this awareness is all there is. Yet the mind resists. It pulls you into memories, reminding you of mistakes, lost opportunities, and moments you wish you could change. It builds illusions of a future where you will finally be happy, finally be successful, finally be at peace. And so, caught between regret and anticipation, you miss the only thing that is real, this moment. Think of a child completely absorbed in play, lost in wonder, unaware of the concept of time. There is no past weighing them down, no future pulling them forward, only the fullness of now. They are not worried about who they will become. They are fully immersed in the joy of simply being. Somewhere along the way, you lost this imagined future. But the truth is, your greatest power, your deepest sense of peace, is not found in chasing something ahead of you. It is found in returning to the present. Consider an athlete in the middle of a race. If they focus on a finish line too soon, they lose their rhythm, their flow. If they dwell on a slow start, they stumble. The only way to perform at their best is to surrender completely to the moment, allowing their body and mind to align with the now. This is true for all of life. The more you resist the present moment, the more you struggle. But when you embrace it, life moves through you effortlessly, even in moments of discomfort, even in moments of uncertainty. The now remains untouched. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. If you panic, if you try to fight the wind, you only exhaust yourself. But if you stand still, observe, and breathe, you find that there is a center of stillness even within the chaos. That stillness is always available to you. It exists in the space. When you truly realize that this moment is all there is, something shifts. The endless search for something more begins to lose its grip. The need to escape, to run, to fix, to control fades. In its place, there is clarity, there is presence, there is an awakening to the simple, undeniable truth that life is always here, waiting for you to know. There is a voice inside your head that constantly tells you to wait. It whispers that you are not ready, that the timing isn't right, that you need more preparation, more confidence, more certainty before you begin. This voice is so familiar that you rarely question it. It feels rational, even protective, as if it is keeping you from failure and embarrassment or disappointment. And so, you wait. Days turn into months, months into years, and still you hesitate, trapped in the illusion that the perfect moment will one day arrive. But what if that moment never comes? What if the waiting itself is the greatest illusion of all? The truth is, there is no perfect time. There never has been. There never will be. Life does not pause for you to feel ready. It moves forward moment by moment, regardless of your doubts. While you are waiting, opportunities pass. While you hesitate, think of a bird preparing to take its first flight. It does not wait for the wind to be perfect, for the sky to be clear, for the fear to disappear completely. It simply leaps. It trusts that its wings will work, not because it has proof, but because it has no other choice. If it does not jump, it will never know its own power. You too have wings, untested perhaps, but capable. There was once a man who dreamed of starting his own business. Every year he told himself he would begin soon, just as soon as he saved more money, just as soon as he learned more, just as soon as he felt more secure. Years passed, and his dream remained just that, a dream. One day he met an old friend who had started his own business with half the money, half the experience, and twice the courage. That friend had faced setbacks, had learned through failures, had grown along the way, and in that moment the man realized the difference between them was not talent, not intelligence, not luck. It was action. One had stepped forward despite uncertainty, while the other had waited for certainty that never arrived. Fear will always be there, doubt will always exist, the mind will always find reasons to delay, but action does not require complete confidence, it only requires a single step. Once you take that step, momentum begins, hesitation weakens. The fear that once seemed so paralyzing loses its grip. You do not need to see the entire path. You do not need all the answers. You only need to trust that the path will reveal itself as you walk. The illusion of waiting dissolves the moment you step forward. The moment you stop saying not yet and start saying now. There is a constant stream of thoughts running through your mind. Some are familiar, repeating themselves like an old song stuck on replay. Others are new, arising from experiences, fears, or external influences. The mind is always speaking, always narrating, always analyzing. It tells you stories about who you are, what you can or cannot do, what is possible and impossible. But here is the truth most people never. You have spent your life identifying with that voice, believing that everything it says must be true. When it tells you that you are not good enough, you believe it. When it tells you that you will fail, you accept it. When it reminds you of past mistakes, you feel as though you are still bound by them. But that voice is not reality. It is just a conditioned pattern, a collection of memories, fears, and learned behaviors playing themselves out in your mind. And the moment you begin to see this, something shifts. Imagine standing beside a river. The water flows constantly, moving past you without stopping. Thoughts are like that river, always moving, always changing. But here is the key. You are not the river. You are the observer standing on the shore, watching the water pass by. The problem is most people don't realize they are separate from their thoughts. Instead, they jump into the river, get carried away by the current, and struggle against it. They become lost in their own mental noise, never recognizing that they have the choice to simply step back and watch. A man once struggled with overwhelming self-doubt. Every time he wanted to take a step forward in life, his mind would flood him with negative thoughts. You're not smart enough, you'll fail, people will judge you. These words felt so real, so undeniable, that he remained stuck, paralyzed by his own mind. Then one day, he did something different. Instead of reacting to the thoughts, he just observed them. He sat in silence and watched them come and go, as if they were passing clouds in the sky. And then he realized these thoughts were not him. They had no real power except the power he gave them. When you see that thoughts are just thoughts, they begin to lose their grip. You no longer need to fight them, resist them, or be controlled by them. You can simply notice them, allow them to be there, and choose not to believe in them. And in that space of awareness, a new power emerges, the power to to act, to move forward. Your mind will continue speaking, but you do not have to listen. The stories it tells are just that, stories. They are not who you are. You are the awareness behind them, the presence that watches, the silent observer that remains untouched by the storm of thoughts. And in that realization, you awaken to a freedom beyond anything your mind could ever comprehend. Nature moves without hesitation. The sun does not question whether it should rise each morning. The river does not pause in doubt before flowing toward the ocean. The tree does not wonder if it is worthy of growing tall. Everything in existence follows its natural rhythm, responding to life as it unfolds, without resistance, without fear, without hesitation. But humans are different. Instead of flowing with life, they hesitate, they overthink, they resist their own growth. Somewhere along the way, you learned to question yourself. You learned to doubt whether you were ready, whether you were capable, whether you deserved to move forward. You became trapped in a cycle of hesitation, waiting for certainty before taking action. But certainty never comes. While nature continues to evolve effortlessly, you remain stuck, held back not by reality but by the stories in your mind. Think of a seed buried in the earth. It does not wait for perfect conditions to begin growing. It does not stop to question whether it is strong enough to break through the soil. It simply follows the pull of life, reaching upward toward the light. If it hesitated, if it doubted, it would remain buried, full of potential, but unable to express it. This is how many people live, full of potential, but they are waiting for the perfect moment, for the fear to disappear, for a sign that guarantees success. But life does not work that way. A young man once stood at the edge of a diving board, staring down at the water below, his mind filled with doubts. What if he didn't jump correctly? What if he hit the water wrong? What if people laughed? And so he hesitated, standing frozen at the edge. But then he noticed something. The longer he stood there, the worse the fear became. His thoughts grew louder, his body tensed, and the jump seemed even. Finally he realized there was only one way to silence the fear. He had to jump. And the moment he did, something incredible happened. The fear vanished. The hesitation was gone. He was no longer thinking. He was in motion, fully alive, fully present. This is how fear works. It thrives in hesitation. The longer you wait, the stronger it becomes. But the moment you act, the moment you move forward, despite the uncertainty, fear loses its power. Like a wave crashing against the shore, it rises for a moment, then disappears. Nature teaches us that life is meant to move forward. Every moment wasted in hesitation is a moment lost. The river does not stop flowing, the tree does not stop growing, the bird does not stop flying, and neither should you. There is no perfect time, there is no guarantee of success, there is only now, only the pull of life urging you forward. The choice is yours, to resist or to move, to hesitate or to flee. The past does not define you. Yet, for most people, it feels like an unshakable weight, shaping their identity, limiting their potential, and dictating what they believe is possible. They carry memories of failure, regret, and disappointment like a heavy burden, allowing past mistakes to become present limitations. But the past is not a prison, it is only a story. Many people believe that because they have failed before, they will fail again, that because they were once hurt, they will always be broken, that because they made poor choices, they are destined to repeat them. But these are just thoughts, conditioned beliefs that keep them trapped. A person who once fell can still stand. A person who was once lost can still find their way. Nothing about the past has the power to control the future unless it is given that power. Consider a prisoner who has spent years locked behind bars. On the day of his release, the door swings open and he steps outside for the first time in years. The world is vast, full of possibilities. Yet if he still believes he is a prisoner, if he still sees himself as trapped, he will not truly be free. The prison will continue to exist, not around him, but within his mind. Even when life offers them a new beginning, they remain chained to their past, unable to see that they have the power to walk away from it at any moment. A man once spent years building a business only to watch it collapse due to mistakes he had made. He lost everything, his money, his confidence, his sense of self-worth. He convinced himself that he was a failure, that he was incapable, that his past would always define him. But one day he met an old friend who had also experienced failure. Unlike him, this friend did not carry his past. Instead, he saw it as a lesson, a teacher that had shaped him into someone wiser, stronger, more prepared for success. And so he had moved forward, started again, and built something even greater than before. That day, the man realized his past was not a curse, it was a choice. He could continue to let it hold him back, or he could use it as fuel to rise again. Everything that has happened in your life has brought you to this moment. The lessons, the struggles, the heartbreaks, they were never meant to break you, they were meant to shape you. The past is not a life sentence, it is only a chapter, one that can be closed the moment you decide to turn the page. What matters is not where you have been, but where you choose to go from here. Nothing about your past. And the moment you truly understand that, you become free. Awakening does not come through effort, struggle, or force. It comes through stillness. In a world that is always moving, always demanding, always filling every empty space with noise, stillness is rare. But it is within stillness that the greatest power is found. Most people live in a constant state of reaction, rushing from one thought to the next, one problem to another, one task to the next, distraction. They never pause, never stop to simply be. And because of this, they never hear the deeper voice within them, the voice that speaks not in words, but in knowing. The mind is restless, always searching, always calculating, always trying to control. It believes that if it just thinks enough, plans enough, worries enough, everything will fall into place. But true clarity does not come from thinking. It comes from stepping back from thought. A muddy river does not clear itself by being stirred up. It clears when it is left undisturbed. The same is true for the mind. When you become still, when you stop chasing after solutions, stop resisting what is, something profound happens. The answers you were seeking begin to reveal themselves, not through force, but through awareness. A man once faced a difficult decision. He spent weeks analyzing, making lists, weighing every possibility, yet he only felt more confused. The more he tried to think his way to clarity, the more lost he became. One day, exhausted by his own mind, he went for a walk by a quiet lake. He sat down, listened to the gentle sounds of the water, felt the wind on his skin, and for the first time in weeks, he stopped thinking. He simply existed. And in that moment of stillness, clarity arose. The answer he had been desperately searching for came to him effortlessly, without struggle. It had been there all along. He had simply been too noisy to hear it. Life is always speaking to you, always guiding you, always showing you the way. But most people are too distracted to listen. They fill their time with endless activity, drowning out their own intuition with mental noise. Yet, when you slow down, when you stop searching outside yourself for answers, when you allow space to simply be, you begin to notice what was always there. A bird does not struggle to find the wind. It simply opens its wings and allows itself to be carried. The same is true for you. There is a flow to life, a rhythm, a natural intelligence that is greater than thought. The more you fight, the more you resist, the more you cling to the illusion of control, the harder everything becomes. But when you surrender, when you trust, when you become still enough to listen, the next step reveals itself. The burden of overthinking disappears, and what remains is a deep sense of presence, of knowing, of freedom. Fear stands at the threshold of every great transformation. It is the invisible force that keeps people trapped in comfort, in hesitation, in the familiar. It whispers stories of failure, of rejection, of pain. It convinces you that stepping forward is dangerous, that staying where you are is safer. And yet, just beyond fear lies everything you seek, the growth, the freedom, the light. The doorway has never been locked. The only thing keeping you from stepping through it is the illusion that you cannot. The mind is wired for survival, not for expansion. It clings to what it knows, what feels predictable, what does not threaten the status quo. Fear is not the enemy, it is simply a signal that you are approaching the edge of what is familiar. Most people misunderstand fear. They see it as a stop sign, a warning that they should turn back. But fear is not a wall, it is a threshold. A young woman once dreamed of becoming a speaker, but the very thought of standing on stage filled her with terror. Every time she considered it, her mind flooded with reasons why she couldn't do it. What if I forget my words? What if they judge me? What if I fail? And so she stayed in the background, hiding from her own potential. One day she met a mentor who told her something that changed everything. Fear is not telling you to stop. Fear is telling you that you are alive. It means you are standing in front of something that matters. She realized then that the fear would never disappear before she acted. It would only dissolve after she stepped through it. The next time she stood in front of a stage, she was still afraid. Her heart raced, her hands shook, her mind told her to run. But this time she did not run. She walked forward, she spoke, and in doing so, the fear lost its power. Every person who has ever achieved something great has faced fear. The difference is not that they were fearless. It is that they did not let fear decide their path. A mountain climber does not wait for the fear of heights to disappear before making the climb. A musician does not wait for complete confidence before playing their first song. The fear is there, but it is a sign that they are stepping into something greater. There will always be a moment where you must decide, will you let fear close the door, or will you walk through it? The mind will always give you reasons to wait, to hesitate, to stay small. But fear only holds power when it is obeyed. The moment you face it, the moment you step through despite it, you realize that it was never as strong as it seemed. Beyond that door is your greatest potential. The mind is always searching. It searches for happiness, for meaning, for success, for a sense of completeness that always seems just out of reach. It chases after goals, thinking that once they are achieved, fulfillment will come. It clings to the past, believing that something was lost. It projects into the future, hoping that something better is waiting. But no matter how much it searches, the mind is like a traveler who walks for miles, convinced that just beyond the horizon lies the destination, only to find that the horizon keeps moving farther away. This is the great illusion, the belief that something outside of you, something in the future, will finally bring you peace. But peace is never found in the future. It is not something to be achieved, acquired, or reached. It is here, now, in this very moment. But it can only be experienced when the endless search stops. Most people never realize this. They spend their entire lives running towards success, running away from. But running never brings rest. The only way to find what you are looking for is to stop looking. A man once spent years chasing success. He believed that once he built his business, once he had wealth, once he had recognition, then he would feel complete. And so he worked endlessly, sacrificing time, health, and relationships in pursuit of this future happiness. One day he reached his goal. He had everything he had once dreamed of, but instead of feeling complete, he felt empty. The happiness he had expected never arrived, and in that moment he saw the truth. It had never been about the goal. It had always been about the chase. He had been so consumed by the pursuit that he had missed the only place where happiness could ever exist. Here, in this moment, Life is not a problem to be solved. It is not a race to be won. It is not something that will be perfect once you get everything right. The mind believes otherwise. It tells you that once you fix yourself, once you get rid of all doubts and fears, once you have everything you want, then you will finally be at peace. But peace is not found in fixing, in achieving, in being fully present exactly as you are, with no need to search for something more. A river does not search for its destination, it simply flows. A tree does not strive to be perfect, it simply grows. Everything in nature follows its path without resistance, without chasing, without needing to be more than it is. And this is the key. When you stop running, when you stop searching for something outside yourself, you realize that nothing was ever missing. The peace, the fulfillment, the wholeness you were waiting, hidden beneath the noise of the searching mind. Awakening is not about adding something to yourself. It is about realizing what has always been within you. It is the recognition that you are not your thoughts, not your fears, not your past, and not the endless search for something outside of yourself. The obstacles that seem so real, hesitation, doubt, fear, begin to dissolve. The moment you stop identifying with them, the mind will always try to pull you into its. You are the awareness behind it, the silent presence that has been there all along. Life is constantly calling you forward. It does not wait for you to feel ready, for fear to disappear, for the perfect moment to arrive. It moves, it flows, and it invites you to step into its rhythm. The past has no power unless you give it permission to define you. Fear has no control unless you allow it to stop you. The search for fulfillment outside yourself is an illusion that only keeps you running in circles. The peace, the clarity, the strength you seek are not in the future, they are here, now, in this moment. To awaken is to see beyond the mind's illusions, to recognize that hesitation is not protection, but limitation, that fear is not a wall, but a doorway, that stillness is not emptiness, but a space where true power arises. You are not separate from life. You are life itself, flowing, expanding, awakening. And the moment you fully embrace this truth, the weight of the past, the struggle of the mind, the search for something, what remains is presence. What remains is free.